Time now for Morning Rounds with CBS News Chief Medical Correspondent Dr. Jon LaPook and CBS News contributor Dr. Holly Phillips. First up, support is pouring in from around the world for former President Jimmy Carter. The 90-year-old Nobel Peace Prize winner revealed Wednesday that he has cancer that has spread throughout his body. John, what do we know about the former president's cancer?
Well, on August 3rd, he had a procedure to help remove a mass that was in his liver. We didn't know what the results of that were going to be in terms of pathology, and we found out that, unfortunately, it was cancer. Now, there are a lot of questions. We don't know where the cancer started. It could really come from any part of the body, the lungs, the gastrointestinal tract. It could start in the liver itself, or it could be from a place like the pancreas. Now, the reason why we're suspicious about that a little bit is that he has a very strong family history. 3 siblings died from pancreatic cancer. So did his father. But we really don't know where it started, so we need to find out a lot more information.
As Don said, 90 years old. So what are his options for treatment?
Well, as John just mentioned, it's hard to talk about treatment when we really don't know everything there is to know about the cancer, exactly how far it's spread and what type it is. But speaking in very general terms, if he has tumors in places that are easy to reach, surgery would be an option. And if the tumors are in harder to reach places, like the brain, for instance, there's targeted radiation. And of course, then there are drugs, ranging from traditional chemotherapy to some of the newer modalities called immunotherapy and molecular therapy. But really, his doctors are going to be weighing not only his age and overall health status, but they're going to look for a regimen that's going to make him live better, not just longer.
He was very aware, or is very aware, of his family history with this particular kind of cancer. In fact, in his recent book, he wrote, "I have had regular x-rays, CAT scans, or blood analyses with hope of early detection if I develop the same symptoms." Do you think that might help with the prognosis on this?
Well, it just depends what he ends up having, and I think that in terms of prognosis and treatment, it's going to be a deeply personal decision. And this is really part of a national discussion, conversation that we're starting to have more and more. How aggressive to be in situations like this. I certainly go through this in my own practice. I mean, depending upon the person's own personal health, their preference, you may want to be very aggressive. You may want to do nothing at all or something anywhere in between.
Okay. A new study from the National Institutes of Health weighs in on a constant source of debate among dieters. Should you cut fats or carbs to help lose weight? Dr. Holly, this is the water cooler topic of the day. What does the study say?
It really is. Basically, the study found that lowering your fat intake rather than lowering carbs proved to be more effective in terms of losing body fat. But they were very, very close. So this was a small but very precise study. They asked 19 people to stay inside of a research lab for 2 different 2-week periods where everything was monitored. During the first time they stayed there, they cut their carbs by 800 calories a day. The second time, they cut fat by 800 calories a day. What this ended up doing was that when they cut their carbs, they lost fat at a rate of 53 grams a day. When they cut fat, they lost it faster, a rate of 89 grams a day. So ultimately, decreasing the amount of fat they ate helped them to lose fat more than cutting the carbs.
Let me ask what everyone's wondering then. Does Dr. Holly tell us go low fat? Is that what we should be doing?
Well, one of the things that makes this study a little bit difficult to really take into real life is that the patients were inside of a lab. They could only eat what the scientists gave them, right? That's not the way we operate in real life, where you're tempted all the time to have carbs and fat. Also, the study couldn't assess which is easier to stick to, low carb or low fat. The best diet really is one that you can sustain.
So, John, since they didn't tell us the combination of the two, which is better, what do you think the doctors are really saying here?
It could be confusing. So I reached out to Kevin Hall, who's the lead author, and he said basically this: if a low-carb diet is working for you, terrific, stick with it. But don't think that the reason why it's working is because of some fancy schmancy metabolic reasoning having to do with insulin levels and how much fat's being burned. The reason why it probably works is that you're lowering your calorie intake. And really, over the long term, what's important is how many calories you're eating, whether it's a low-fat or low-carb diet.
Or both.
Or both. It's what works for you. And, of course, I have to throw in, you got to do exercise, too.
Yeah. 1 in 5 Americans uses technology like smartphone apps and wearable sensors to track health data. A new scientific statement from the American Heart Association examines how successful these apps are in helping Americans improve their health. Dr. Holly, I tend to believe in the old Nike philosophy of just do it. Get out, work out. These things feel like a fad, but maybe not.
Right. Well, that's really why the researchers were interested in this. There's only a little bit of data we have so far about their effectiveness, and they were focused on whether or not it could cut down on heart disease risk factors. So what they did find was that the apps were effective in weight loss, but only in the short term so far. We're not sure if, a year or two in, they're still as effective. They seem to be able to increase physical activity and may even be beneficial for smoking cessation, particularly when they're combined with a more traditional quitting smoking program. There wasn't enough information to say if they cut down on diabetes or high cholesterol or lowered blood pressure yet.
All right, finally this morning, if you were having an operation soon, a new analysis makes a simple recommendation: turn up the tunes. British scientists say listening to music before, during, and after surgery reduces people's pain, anxiety, and need for painkillers.
Well, music has been used as therapy from as far back as Hippocrates, at least, all the way to Florence Nightingale and forward. And it's fascinating. We don't really know exactly the mechanism it goes into your brain. It somehow affects endorphins or some other neural pathways. But all I know is personally, when you hear a certain type of music, it goes right to the middle of my brain. For me, it's James Taylor. Makes me feel better. Other music, not so much.
Yeah, I'm not sure AC/DC Highway to Hell is what I want to hear. It depends.
Dr. Jon LaPook, Dr. Holly Phillips, thank you both so much.